Hey everyone, this is the Pedal Dance Podcast featuring me, your host Ty, and Chris. And today we are covering the TCG episode, which is for which set, Chris?
This is going to be the second part of the Gym series, the last of Gen 1. This will be Gym Challenge.
Okay. And we have you representing the honorable mentions first today, if I'm not mistaken.
That is true. I am doing the honorable mentions first, and you will start with the top 10s.
All right. So what are those honorable mentions, Chris?
It's funny you should ask. I have 4, so I'm just going to go over them relatively briefly. Honorable mention number 1 is Rocket's Secret Experiment. I put this one in because it's just a fun little card. It could really screw you up, though. Flip a coin if heads, search your deck for any card and put it in your hand. And then shuffle your deck afterwards, of course. But the bad part about it is if you flip tails, you can't play any trainer cards until the end of your next turn. So that's actually one heck of a trade-off. And just for that, I couldn't put it on my top 10 list. The next one is Koga's Ditto. Why Koga has a Ditto, I don't know. But 40 HP, not that good. The attacks are what make it a little funny to just look at because I never owned this card, and it's just funny to see. For one colorless energy. Okay, first of all, it has an HP of 40, and its only attacking move does 10. For one colorless energy, you flip a coin of heads. Ditto's HP doubles and its attack triples. It's not that good, but it's still actually pretty cool just to see that they did something like this. So I'm actually all for it, even though it's not in my top 10.
Understood.
Honorable mention number 3 is Erica's Venusaur. I'll put this one mainly in here just because it's Venusaur and that's my favorite Gen 1 starter. Its first attack is decent. Why are all these coin flips? I just realized. Flip a coin of heads. You may attach up to 2 energy cards from your hand to Erica's Venusaur. Not bad. But wide solar beam, 4 energy, only 20 damage, and you hit 20 damage on their bench. Sorry, that's not good enough. That's not good.
Yeah.
I love Venusaur, but no. And my last honorable mention is Koga's Kakuna. Why is it my in my honorable mention? Simple. It's my favorite artwork just because it shows a Kakuna evolving into a Beedrill. There is no other card that has that type of picture. So, just because of how unique that card is, I had to put it in my honorable mentions.
That does sound pretty unique. I kind of wish I had it.
I used to have it in Japanese, but
Ooh.
this is that was before my ex-friend.
Yeah, I got you.
But
Anyway,
those are my honorable mention list. So, Ty, honorable mention.
Yep, my honorable mention. I decided on doing this list yet again on the cards that I physically own because I wanted to make it more special. And my honorable mention is Misty's Tears. I really like this card because of the fact that the Japanese one was one that made its way into a lot of people's lives or what have you, because it's one of those rarity cards over in Japan where people tend to put it on a pedestal type of ordeal.
Yeah.
Anyway, though, I had the English copy, not the Japanese one, sadly. But I personally like this card because it reminds me of that speculation altogether. But again, because of the discarding, I'm gonna have to put it in the honorable mention because I still just can't quite get over the idea of throwing something in your deck away.
Yeah, I got you. That's just how some cards were.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so with that being said, I'm to start the top 10.
That is correct.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to make sure I remembered because my memory kind of sucks on this lately. Okay, so what I did was I went through all my cards, I wrote down the good ones, and then I numbered them so they are completely out of sequence. So if I get something out of order, I'm going to hate myself for this, so be prepared for that. But I'm reading this correctly right now. It says Erica's Jigglypuff is my number 10. Okay. And I have the card right here. It says for one colorless energy, you can do group therapy. You and your opponent remove one damage counter from each of your Pokemon with damage counters on them. So that helps y'all heal, which is pretty good for one energy. That's not a bad thing at all. However, it might be a waste of a turn unless you have this on multiple Pokemon and you may have retreated out the other one to use it. And then there's Pull Punch. It requires two colorless energies, and the description reads, if the defending Pokemon has no damage counters on this attack does 40 damage. If it has any damage counters on it, the attack does 10. So basically, it sounds really it sounds like one of those pacifist cards. It's like, okay, so if your opponent doesn't have any damage on it, it does 40 damage. But if it does 10. It's like you're showing weakness. So yeah, that's why it's my number 10. It's not the best card in the world, but the fact that it does 40 damage as a base for two colorless energies, that might actually be a pretty decent card considering it can knock out most of the basic Pokemon. So that's why it's my number 10.
Well, most of the basic Pokemon that do evolve.
Yeah, of course. But you always run that risk or what have you.
Right.
Anyway, so with that being said though, what is your number 10?
My number 10 is Misty's Wish.
Oh, okay.
Misty's Wish. This is a fun little card that I would have loved to. I don't even remember seeing this card, to be honest, but it has an adorable picture of Misty. By the way, Misty's my favorite female in the entirety of Pokemon. When it comes to actual like main-ish characters,
Yeah, I don't blame you. She's mine too.
awesome. But the card says look at one of your prize cards. Then ask your opponent if you may switch that card with one of the cards in your hand. If your opponent accepts and if you have other cards in your hand, switch those cards. If your opponent declines, return the prize card face down and draw a card. So it's a good way to see what some of your prize cards are if you run multiple of them.
Okay.
And it's just a fun little card to see if you can actually get something new in your hand just by playing a card. That's something that at that time never happened. Even though it's a switch, not really gaining a free prize card, it's still not bad because there might be something in there that you desperately need. And if you so happen to turn it over, then you're set to go. You get a free switch on a card that you needed just because you played a trainer.
Yeah, that's always a good thing to have done there. So anyway, though, so with that being said, are we ready to move on to number 9?
Of course.
All right. So my number 9, I chose Giovanni's Meowth as my number 9. Now, don't get me wrong though, the attacks are pretty decent. The first attack here requires one colorless energy. It's called False Charity. And the description reads, flip a coin. If heads, look at the top card of your opponent's deck. If it's a trainer card, put it in your opponent's discard pile. Otherwise, put it into his or her hand. So basically, you get to choose whether or not you throw away their trainer card. And then the other attack here has two double colorless energies. It says flip 2 coins. This attack does 20 damage times the number of hits. So 2 times 20, that'd be 40 damage. It could easily knock out any basic Pokemon with 40 HP. But also, Meowth in itself also has 40 HP. So it's not going to last very long either in that given setting or what have you. So unless you could evolve it into Giovanni's Persian and probably use a recall to use any of these moves, it's not going to be your best card, but it's still a good card, I think, because of what it can do.
Okay.
And I did it to specify. I did it to specify which Giovanni's Meowth because apparently there's two of them.
Yeah, Pokemon has a
Yeah,
tendency of two different versions of the same card in
yeah. But
sets.
I really also like the artwork on this particular card because it just looks like Meowth doesn't care.
Of course, he doesn't care.
Well, I mean, it's Giovanni's Meowth, not Team Rocket's Meowth, so there's a difference.
Yeah, but Giovanni's Meowth evolves into Giovanni's Persian, so we know how that is.
Yep, that's true. Anyway, though, so with that being said, though, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is Sabrina's Alakazam.
Ooh.
My favorite artworks in the set, but its Pokemon power is really good. Okay, its main attack Mega Burn, 1 Psychic, 3 colorless, and it does 60 damage, but you can't use that attack next turn. It's okay, not the best. But Psylink, this Pokemon always has a copy of every attack your Psychic Pokemon in play.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you have the
As long as you
so
have the.
as long as you have the energy cost, you can use any attack from your Psychic Pokemon.
Okay.
That's really flipping cool. And it's
Well,
Alakazam. I love Alakazam.
yeah. Yeah, Sabrina's always has good Pokemon, but then again, I think that's just because most of hers are fall into the psychic type spectrum. Anyway, so with that being said, I believe we're ready to move on to number 8.
Indeed, we are.
Okay, now it seems like I've mentioned this card before in a previous episode, but it's Sabrina's Porygon. For 1 colorless energy, you can use the attack Sharp Point for 10 damage. And then for its second attack, it has 2 colorless energies. It's called Barrier Attack. And it says, all damage done by your attacks, all damage done by attacks to Sabrina's Porygon during your opponent's next turn is reduced by 10. So, what I like about this one is that it pretty much guarantees that your opponents won't completely kill you off. And with most attacks, most of them that you can't really use right away that require 1 colorless energy, most of them typically do 10 damage or what have you. But if you're reducing it by 10 and their damage does 10, then obviously you come off scot-free. But you can only use this for so long, and I probably should have changed the order of this with Giovanni's Meowth, but I don't know. I guess I misread that because I was under the impression that this attack makes those attacks do 10 damage rather than whatever they did do, and so I completely misread that when I read that, and I think that's why I might have screwed up my ranking there a little bit. So yeah, let's just pretend like those swap places. But yeah, that's why it's on my list. Plus, I think the artwork's really cool. But I just think it's kind of cool that an attack can not only deal out 20 damage, but it can also reduce the amount of damage you take as well.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Wish it was a
Yes.
little bit more that it reduces it by, but I mean, hey, I'm not going to be.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, I completely misread that card. It would have been nice if it pretty much made it so that you only took 10 damage every time your opponent attacked, because then you'd just be like 4 hits. It'd be a guaranteed 4 hits before you got knocked out. But no, I misread the card. That's not actually its description, and I feel like an idiot now. But yeah, we'll just pretend we changed that with Giovanni's Meowth. So let's re-rank Porygon number 9, Giovanni's Meowth number 8. So, so what's your number 8, Chris?
My number 8 is Rocket's Minefield Gym. This one's going to be short and sweet to the point. Whenever a player puts a basic Pokemon on her bench from his or her hand, they flip a coin. If tails, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. That is a really good way to start out with your opponent sending out a Pokemon on the bench or on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Giving it, starting with a handicap if they flip tails. And that could be really, really clutch whenever you're able to actually snipe on the bench and basic Pokemon come on and they already have damage as soon as they come out on the field. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
So spread damage decks with this in there, not a bad choice. But yeah, that's the only reason it's number 8.
Okay. So so now I guess we'll move on to number 7 if you're ready.
Indeed, I am.
Okay, so my number 7 card is Blank. The description reads, during this turn, instead of attaching your free energy card, you may attach 2 fire energies to one of your Pokemon with Blaine in its name. If you are using a Blaine's deck, that could be very idealistic because you'll be able to quickly get energies on your fire types. And I know a lot of fire types typically require you to discard an energy card to do more damage. So that could be very helpful.
Indeed, it can. Always being able to attach more than one energy is useful no matter what.
Oh, yes, wholeheartedly agree.
Now, this was back then whenever there were no such things as items and supporters, so you could play multiple trainers in a turn. And it's just a shame that you couldn't play more than one Blaine in a turn. You could, but the ones after the first one, their effect doesn't go off. It has no effect.
Yeah. So, yeah, because it does say during this turn, so you obviously have to play 1 per turn.
Yeah. I mean, you have the option to play more per turn if you want to. It's just none of the ones after the first one are going to have any effect.
And you're right, though. It does also mention in parentheses, playing additional copies of this card this turn has no effect. So, I mean, that's kind of obvious, when you think about it.
Yep. Indeed. So with that goes to my number 7. Am I right?
Yep, that is correct.
All right, my number 7 is Sabrina's Psychic Control.
Ooh.
Flip a coin. If heads, choose a trainer card in your opponent's discard pile that isn't put in play. So anything that's already been used. You may use that card as if it were in your hand if you do everything required. So if you have to discard, you discard. If you just whatever the prerequisite for you card is, you can use it. So this card can be any card, any item card, or any trainer card in your opponent's discard pile.
And then you basically use their trainer card against them. That's clever.
So many possibilities with this card.
Yeah. Whew. Endless fun with that one.
I would have a lot of fun with that card, honestly. But yeah, just for the fact that it can be used in almost any and every situation, I'll put that one at number 7.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's a really good one to have. Okay, so are we ready to move on to number 6?
Indeed, we are.
Okay, so for number 6, I chose Giovanni. The description reads, choose one of your Pokemon and play with Giovanni in its name. For the rest of your turn, you may evolve that Pokemon, even if you just played or evolved it this turn, or if this is your first turn. This effect also applies to the Pokemon it evolves into. So
Nice.
let's say, well, I don't really know if this is a card, but it probably is. But let's say you have a Giovanni's Nidoking. Okay, you could do the Nidoran, the Nidorino, and the Nidoking. And you could do that all on the first turn. It would really catch your opponents off guard.
Yes. Yes, it would.
Yeah, Because like they're thinking that, oh, all I gotta do is take down a Nidoran. That's not hard. It's like, but all of a sudden it becomes a Nidoking. It's like, okay, this just got harder.
Bam! Instant beast.
Uh, oh, the ultimate strategy. Am I right?
Agreed.
All right.
As long as it
So,
has in its name.
all right. Yeah, and I know, and I'm trying to speed this up because I know you've got things you got to do.
Oh, it's
So
okay.
yeah. So with that being said, what is your number 6?
My number 6, Ty, you're going to find this funny.
Mm-hmm.
My number 6 is Giovanni's Nidoking.
Okay, so we confirm that's a card. Okay, that's great. Because again, I'm going by the ones I had. I haven't actually looked at the list. So,
Okay, this is on my list for a couple reasons. The main reason, it was my first ever holographic card in Gym Challenge.
ooh, okay.
Now, I'm more of a Nidoqueen fan myself than Nidoking, but I'm not going to lie. Nidoking looks flippin' sweet. This card is a beautiful holographic card. It has 120 HP.
Mm-hmm.
Its first attack, which only costs 1 grass energy, is Intimidate. If your opponent's active Pokemon has 50 or less HP, it cannot attack the Nidoking next turn. So
Nice.
even if you're weak to whatever they have on the field, if it has less than 50 HP and you play that, it cannot attack whatsoever.
Nice.
No, I mean it might be bad if somebody runs like, let's say, a switch,
Uh-huh.
but still useful.
Oh
And then
yeah.
for 3 grass and 1 colorless, Tumbling Attack.
Ooh.
Does 40 damage base. If heads, it does an extra 30. If tails, it just does 40. So it's not too bad, but it's not worthy of the top 5. Sorry,
I
but
got you.
I still have personal bias because it was my first ever holographic from the set.
Understood. I actually have a Team Rocket tote bag. It was done by an artist actually, and it actually doesn't have Nidoking on it though. It has Nidoqueen. So I guess I just felt like Nidoqueen was more popular. So maybe that's why I said Nidoking.
Actually, Nidoking is actually more popular.
Really? Huh.
Yes, Nidoking is
But
infinitely more
it's
popular.
not on my tote bag, Chris.
Well, your
Anyway.
tote bag lies, Ty.
No, it's not the tote bag that lies. It's the artist that made it. But I don't want to criticize this artist. She did a really bang up job on this tote. It looks adorable. I just
Hey,
love the cocky little stare that Persian has with its paw
hey,
on the R.
hey, I'm not going to complain about that. I prefer Nidoqueen over Nidoking anyway, so I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I do too. But like this tote just looks radical. Anyway, though.
Gotcha.
So with that said, though, are we ready to move on to number 5?
I don't know. Are we, Ty?
Yes, I am, because my number 5 is Warp Point. The description reads, if your opponent has any bench Pokemon, he or she chooses one of them and switches it with his or her active Pokemon. Then, if you have any bench Pokemon, you switch one of them with your active Pokemon. It's basically like a reset button. It's like, okay, I really don't like this matchup right now. I just want to hit reset. That's what Warp Point does. So if there's a Pokemon that you want to take out before they even have a chance to build it up, this would be a good card to use. But you better have a strategy for it as well. Uh, Also, this card is really not all that great though. If your opponent has multiple Pokemon on their bench, because they do still have to choose their bench Pokemon. But if they have like one Pokemon on their bench and one active Pokemon, you may have the upper hand when you're playing this card. But you just have to be prepared for it. It's a very strategic card. And of course, retreat costs are still a thing, so try to be mindful of that. But then again, if you're doing this your turn, you at least get to lay one attack in before they even think about switching it out. So you do want to have some type of strategy to this. Probably make sure they don't have any energies on that Pokemon either. So With
I
that being said,
I agree with that. The only problem is, as you mentioned, if they have multiple Pokemon on their bench, they choose. The thing with that is, there is a better version of the card that's about to go out of rotation here now, which is
oh,
um, which is Guzma, and Guzma lets you choose your opponent's Pokemon to bring up. So even if they have multiple Pokemon, you choose what Pokemon that they're bringing out, and then you choose yours. So it's a better card. But even then, still back then, that's still a really useful card, especially like you said, if they only have one Pokemon on the bench. So yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
a
all about
very
strategy. Yeah,
right. It's a very specific time specific card,
exactly.
but when played right, can just wreck your opponent and crush their hopes and dreams.
Yeah, but I also
Yeah.
chose it for the artwork. It just looks really interesting as well. So
Yeah, with the
yeah,
oddish and
well, just it's like the little, what is
the
it
blue
called? It's
checker
the ripple
pattern.
effect. Yeah, the ripple effect on the yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool, I thought.
I got you. I got you.
All right. So with that being said, are you ready for your number five?
Yes, I am. And I'm not going to be saying much for this card,
Okay.
but my number five is Blaine. Everything that Ty said. Boom. Number four.
Oh wow, that was easy. Okay, so let's see. My number four. That didn't give me a lot of time to change pages. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Okay, so I chose the Cinnabar City Gym. Okay, so the description reads: ignore weakness when a water Pokemon does damage to a Pokemon with Blaine in its name. And again, that's a stadium card. It's one of the well, it's technically not one of the first, but the second of the first stadium cards to ever exist. And it's very ideal, especially if you're playing a Blaine stack. So yeah, so that way, if you have that card, it's like you wouldn't even have to worry about going up against the one weakness that you have on your card because you have a card that covers that. So it's like the ultimate trainer card, basically, to avoid you from taking extra damage.
No weakness is always a plus.
Exactly. So yeah, if I had this when in my Charizard deck, whenever I was playing against my brother's Dark Blastoise, for instance, if it had been a Blaine's Charizard, I wouldn't have had to worry about that.
That's
Yeah,
very true.
yeah. So with that being said, what is your number four?
My number four is Chaos Gym.
Ooh,
This is a fun stadium. I really do like this. Whenever a player plays a trainer card other than a stadium, he or she flips a coin. If heads, that player plays that card normally. If tails, the player cannot play that card. If the card is not put into play by the person who tried to use it, the opponent gets the chance to use that card. All they have to do is flip heads or tails.
nice.
But if they both get tails, it's regardless of what happens, the card is discarded. So
Okay.
nobody gets to use it.
Oh, interesting. That's also sounding like one of those strategic ones.
Very much so. And it's just one to really, really aggravate your opponents.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean that's kind
And
of the
that's
goal,
the type of
isn't
person
it?
I am.
Yeah. All right, so you're ready for number three.
Indeed I am. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Okay, so that would be for me the Viridian City Gym Stadium card. Now, what that one does, as the description reads, is whenever a Pokemon with Giovanni in its name evolves, its owner removes 2 damage counters from that Pokemon, or 1 if it only has 1. Okay, so this card would be extremely ideal if you know you have a Giovanni in the deck. So, like, let's say you have the Giovanni and you play that along with the Giovanni's gym. Okay, well, the Viridian City gym card, if you want to get technical. Okay, so so you play the Giovanni and you have that stadium card and play. Not only do you get to evolve it twice, but technically every time you evolve it, you get to take 20 damage off of that thing. So that's an instant heal of 40 HP right there. Now I don't really know exactly how much HP the Giovanni's Nidoran has, but if it has 50, I mean, like you'd be this close to dying and it would save you. And you basically start fresh with the Nidoking that has absolutely no damage counters on it. So
Very,
how awesome would that be?
very.
Yeah, and that's why it's my number three. Okay, so what about you, Chris? What's your number three?
My number 3 is Blaine's Arcanine.
Ooh, pretty.
Yes. 100 HP. No, sorry, 90 HP. Um, Heat Tackle, Fire, Colorless, Colorless. 40 damage, 10 damage to itself. Not bad.
Ooh,
For
okay.
four fire energy, Firestorm does 120 damage. But you discard 3 energy. Which that right there is not a problem. Just because let's just say in a perfect world, you're drawing nothing but energies and you run 4 Blaine, you're always keeping 1 energy on that Blaine's Arcanine after using that 120 base attack. And so every turn you can just attach an extra 2 energy with a Blaine plus the 1 for turn. So you're
Yeah,
adding energy that way, and you're going to be able to constantly use it up to 4 times relatively quickly, and that's insane.
I told you the one thing fire types are known for, having their energies discarded, and Arcanine is no exception to that rule, apparently. That's why Blind is such a good trainer card.
But still, for 120, that KOs anything, and I mean anything.
Oh, yes, because that was as high as you could go back in the day.
Yep. Indeed, it was.
All right, so with that being said, number two, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I have to ask because I want to make sure. Okay, so mine is Blaine's Deduo. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's like, why is a basic Pokemon at the top of my list? Well, A, because I have one. Okay, and B, because I think its attack is better than the Dugtrio that I have. Because the Dugtrio, if you flip a coin and it lands on tails, that attack does nothing. So Blaine's Dugtrio kind of sucks in comparison. But let's just read Blaine's Deduo. It takes 1 colorless energy for its first attack of Wild Kick. It says flip a coin. It tells its attack does nothing. But if it's heads, it does 20 damage. Okay, so that's 20 damage for 1 energy, and it may or may not hit. That's not the worst thing in the world. Then there's the second attack, the one I really like it for. It's got 2 colorless energies for this attack, and it's called Retaliate. The description reads, does 10 damage times the number of damage counters on Blaine's Deduo. Okay then, so let's see. Blaine's Deduo has 50 HP. Okay, so if you have 4 damage counters on your Deduo, and 10 times 40, that does 40 damage. That's pretty decent. But like 40 damage for 2 colorless energies? Like that's really impressive, honestly. That's a really quality attack right there. I mean, granted, it's no 50 damage like you get with Blaine's Drio if you do have a good habit of flipping heads. But I mean, this one's kind of more guaranteed. If you have 40 damage, it's going to do 40 damage. Well, it's going to do 40 damage to your opponent. So,
Right.
and it could even do 30 or 20 or what have you. So it's guaranteed damage. There is no flipping a coin for this. And that's why I think it's better than Blaine's Dodrio, and that's why it's my number two.
Nice choice.
Okay, so what about you? What's your number two?
My number 2 is, it was a coin flip between number 1 and number 2, but there is a reason why I ordered them the way I did.
Of course.
Number 2 is Rocket's Mewtwo.
Ooh, okay.
It was the very first card to ever have 3 attacks.
Nice.
Yes, its biggest attack is Psyburn, 3 psychic and 1 colorless energy. Does 60 damage. Not bad. Hypnoblast, 2 psychic energy, 20 damage, and asleep on the coin flip. Your opponent's active is asleep on the coin flip. Not bad. But the first attack, Juxtapose, for 1 psychic energy, is what I'm excited about.
Okay.
Here we go again. Flip a coin. If heads, switch the number of damage counters on Rocket's Mewtwo with the number of damage counters on the defending Pokemon. So it has 70 HP. So let's say you're going to get something that has 60 HP and you already have 6 damage counters. Even if they have none, you still flip. So they'll take the 6, and that's a knockout right there. And
Okay.
not to mention that Rocket's Mewtwo is fully healed by that, just by that attack.
Huh. Yeah, that's insane.
That is. But the reason it's number 2 is because I never pulled it. My brother pulled it, and he's still a jerk for doing so. I remember we were in the back of our parents' car whenever he did pull it, and I am still mad at him for that.
How can you get mad at him for pulling a card?
I'm not mad at him. I'm just mad at the fact that he pulled it and I didn't. I was young, and it was one of those.
Jealous.
It should have been me. Yes.
Yeah. I know, right? Like I'm only a child. Why am I not the chosen one? Just
But
instantly offended. You're not the chosen one.
right, but I do have a promo version of Rocket's Mewtwo that was given out for tournaments, so it is an actual copy of Rocket's Mewtwo. I do have one.
Nice.
Right, but the thing is, I still never pulled it out of a pack, and that just would have done. That would have put it number 1. But the fact that I didn't, I just had to go to number 2.
Oh, poor Mewtwo. You and your biased. Okay, so we're ready for number 1.
Drum roll, please.
Well, let's see. I got to get to the wall. I got to get better at that. Anyway,
Need to take
so
band class.
it has nothing to do with band class. I'm not using an actual drum. I'm putting my ring against the wall. Anyway, so my number 1 is Giovanni's Gyarados. Okay, it has 90 HP. I got the hollow one, and the first attack here, it requires 1 water energy. The attack is Summon Storm, and the description reads: flip 2 coins. If tail, well, and actually, if both of them are heads, this attack does 20 damage to each other Pokemon, even your own. Doesn't apply weakness and resistance for attack. Okay, so basically everybody gets 20 damage. You, your own, and your opponents as well. No, it's not the best move in the world, but it's a great way to kind of wipe the board. And I don't know why I was going to say if tails. It just seems like everything else I've read lately has said if tails. Anyway, so the second attack, 2 water energies, 2 colorless energies. The attack is Dragon Tornado, and the description reads: unless this attack knocks out the defending Pokemon, choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch it with the defending Pokemon. And it does 40 damage on top of that. So you get to not only choose what Pokemon you're swapping out for the defending Pokemon, but you also do 40 damage to it before you actually switch it out. So basically, if you have somebody that's been really giving you a hard time, you get to put 40 damage on it and then take it out of the defending Pokemon's position. And if your opponent hasn't been loading up their bench Pokemon, they'll be completely unprepared to retreat it to bring back that Pokemon. And so you'll basically be getting more prize cards on weaker cards.
Nice. That's a
And
solid pick.
yeah. And Summon Storm could also come in handy too. Like let's say you were able to get that Gyarados out really fast. It is a Giovanni's, by the way. So you got the Giovanni card. Like let's say you had the Giovanni card on your very first hand and you were able to get a Gyarados out like immediately. Okay, so even using Summon Storm, your opponent's most likely going to have a bunch of 40 HP cards on their bench and stuff. And just using 2 Summon Storms could knock them all out and get you the prizes by forfeit.
Yeah, that just seems like a really beastly card.
Oh, it is. And that's why it's my number one. I think it's pretty epic.
And a very good number one at that.
Oh, yeah. All right. So I'm kind of anxious to see how you're going to top that one.
Well, I'm not going to top it. This one's just a personal bias for me, number one was.
Okay.
My number one is Rocket's Zapdos.
Ooh, yeah. I wish I had that card.
70 HP. First attack, 20 damage for 1 energy. Plus, if there's any electric energy in your discard pile, you can attach it to Rocket Zapdos for free.
Ooh, nice.
Not bad. And its second attack, Electro Burn. Rocket Zapdos does damage. It does for every number of electric energy cards attached to it. It does 10 damage to itself, which isn't too terribly bad, especially if you bring this in just as a late sweeper.
Uh-huh.
Because for 70 damage, you're going to be getting almost guaranteed KOs. So it didn't really matter that it was doing damage to itself. And if you had a second one built up, you're pretty much set for the game no matter what you're going up against.
Yeah.
But besides
No,
that, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just wanted Rocket Zapdos because I love Zapdos.
Yeah, I understand completely.
Yeah.
Rocket Zapdos, to me, holographic wise, has the best holographic in the set. The artwork is just phenomenal. Have you ever seen the picture?
I think I have. It'd be very briefly though. I don't really recollect it entirely, but didn't it have like a really dark background?
And it's shooting lightning down.
Nice.
Yes, it's a beautiful card, beautiful holographic, but the main thing that put it number one for me, I cannot make this up, even though you'll probably think I did, or somebody will think I did.
Mm-hmm.
My last two holographic cards from Gym Challenge were back-to-back Rocket Zapdos.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I pulled two of them. That was
Hmm.
the first ever duplicate holographic for that set that I ever got. And honestly, I couldn't have been happier with it being the first duplicate holographic I got from the set. It's just a beautiful card, great card to use
Yeah.
if you know how to play it right, at least.
And your cards got stolen at one point in your life, right?
Indeed, and those are ones that got stolen along with them.
Darn it, because I was going to offer you a trade.
Well, who says I don't have one right now?
That you can spare.
Maybe.
And we will let you know the results of this trade after the end of the podcast. Are we ready to close that out, or?
Yeah, I think we're ready to close out the podcast.
Yeah, all right. So, with that being said, we hope you enjoyed our top 10. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, report it if somehow we offended you, or if you just don't like the fact that we didn't pick one of your favorite cards, or what have you.
Or
Anyway, though,
if you hate the look of our face, even though you don't see it, or if you hate the sound of our voice, which I pretty much agree with you on mine. My voice is annoying as heck. But anyway,
I
like
think you get a voice that's made for radio. So, yeah. Anyway,
why?
though.
Because it's so annoying.
Anyway, though. So, with that being said,
I see
we
you
hope
did.
you enjoyed the podcast. But this has been the Pedal Dance Podcast, brought to you by Ty and
Hello,
Chris.
me, Chris.
Yeah, yeah. So, and we will catch you next time when we cover. I can't remember which one of the Neos is first, but we're going to be covering over the Neo sets.
Genesis.
Chris, would you mind? Oh, it is Genesis. Okay, so Neo Genesis. All right, and
And I know
until
Ty
then,
is really looking forward to this because
oh
she is a
yeah,
big fan of the new sets,
oh
especially
yeah,
Genesis.
yeah, Genesis and Discovery. Yeah, those will be my
Oh,
favorites.
Oh, I thought it was Destiny. My bad. I
Uh,
misspoken.
Discovery, Genesis. I'm pretty sure Destiny's probably included on there too, but we'll find out more as we make those lists. All right. Until next time. This
Take
has
it
been
easy.
Podcast. So yeah.